Anyway, thank you all for joining us. I'm Lynette Ubel. The first painting that's up here is kind of an earlier one. It's not, I mean, it might be like a year and a half old. There's kind of a section of my work that feels one way. And it's interesting as we go through what Alan has chosen for this exhibit to see how things have evolved a bit since the quarantine and the 2020 COVID issue. It's a New Day is this first piece that is up. And it is a piece that, for me, I would say is kind of a limited palette. I tend to put a lot of color in my work. As I was painting these, the very first piece that showed up for me as one of these Chroma Trails, I call this series, every piece that Alan has selected for this exhibit is, I call it in my Chroma Trail collection. They kind of have these trails that move through the painting, kind of ebbing and flowing, coming forward and back, bringing people in and out of paintings. And the very first time that one of those showed up, it's actually in a painting that Alan sold at Strecker Nelson West. The very first painting, this is one of the very first trails that showed up in one of my pieces. It was kind of a more confined trail. This was a painting titled Many Ways to Get There. And it was a piece that I was kind of playing with, I think a lot of the things that were going on at that time were, this is the right way to go and this is the right way to go. And I don't do much or any political statements or commentary, but I think my work generally, what I'm feeling is happening in the collective, I kind of translate into what's happening in my work. So, the wrestling over, this way's right or this way's right, that first painting, Many Ways to Get There, that Alan sold at Strecker Nelson West, I was showing different trails coming through and different ways to get to your end goal. And everybody has a different way to get there. After that trail showed up in my work, and I have to say a lot of times when I go into my studio, I kind of pull my paints out and I select what color palette I feel like working on that day. And then I kind of say, okay, universe, here we go. Let's see what's going to show up today. That trail showed up and I thought it was so intriguing, so interesting. And I pulled it out of that first Many Ways to Get There painting and thought, how can I expand on this? What is this? I didn't really even know what was that trail. I started playing with the trails and working them through the paintings and kind of expanding on them. As you can tell in It's a New Day here, I don't want to say I exploded the trails, but I definitely stretched them past what they were in that first confined version that they showed up in. It's something that moves through a lot of my paintings. It's not the only style I do, but this is of great interest to me. And as I've worked through some of my pieces, I'm kind of realizing that I believe I'm depicting energy. I'm kind of an intuitive individual, and I believe that what I am putting down is my interpretation of energy, and whether that's my energy or whether that's the energy of the collective that I'm kind of putting down on my canvas, that's kind of what's happening there. This is kind of a limited palette in my way of thinking, because a lot of times I like a lot of color. So having just the blues, the grays, and the yellows working together is something that, I think while there's a lot of energy and movement through this painting, I also believe there are some spaces of calm. So I think next to it is a painting titled Twist of Fate. It's a piece that was also in the similar realm as it's to the right of Many Ways to Get There. It's a piece that I kind of felt that day of using darks and lights. And Twist of Fate, you can kind of see why I titled it this. You can see the extreme twist through the middle of the painting and then off the page. It's something that most of my paintings have positive energy. I'm kind of either in the title or in the colors or in the movement. They never come from a negative space. They always are something that in my mind are kind of a positive, fun, encouraging type work. This piece, I think I just felt like doing something a little bit more dramatic and dark backgrounds, light backgrounds, pops of color. So this piece has quite a bit more color running through it than the first piece did. But it again is kind of an expansion on what I titled the Chroma Trails. So I believe that is probably all I have to say on that. Twist of Fate, titles come to me either as I'm finishing them or after I look at them after I'm done. It's kind of like I work through a painting, I get it to a place, I finish up, and then it tells me what the title should be. Path of Least Resistance is a piece that has spoken to a lot of people. It is something that was selected to hang at the Albrecht Kemper Museum up in St. Joe for 2 months in a specific exhibit up there. So it was framed and sent to hang in the Kemper Albrecht Museum. Everybody that looks at this painting sees something different. I have people that see waves in it. Me personally, up in kind of the top as the lines are working through the painting, and then up at the top, in the end, it's nothing that was planned. I see this Pegasus type figure. As far as my process shows up quite a bit in this piece, I think, in particular, because I generally lay down quite a thick layer of gesso to get texture on the bottom and get some really interesting pattern and depth. So all the way from the beginning of the piece, there's some thick gestural lines working through, and my process is kind of laying on color and then selectively removing color, and it's kind of a give and a take. I put it in, I scrub it off. I put it in, I scrub it off. I put it in, I layer it in until suddenly I realize which way the Chroma Trail might work through a piece. It's kind of more of an expressive way of working. Abstract expressionism. My background is advertising, art direction, and graphic design. Just to go back a little bit on who I am, I've got from the beginning, I knew I was going to be an artist, and kind of took the route through college that going into the ad world. So I believe you can see, even though I am an abstract expressionist, you can see some linear structural form in here that I think is something that's coming from the background of my ad work. Through the quarantine, my work has gotten a little bit softer. I think my background also contains a lot of watercolor work. I used to do a lot of very realistic, illustrative watercolor work. And through the quarantine, I think with me wanting the, with everything getting so kind of crazy in the world, I think my palette got a little bit softer. I think my technique got a little bit softer, and kind of was expressing how I was kind of hoping everybody would see, see the world and kind of calm everything down. So those are pieces on that wall that are, let's see. This piece that we're looking at right now is Light Chaser. I think the Chroma Trail kind of turned to me into more of an ethereal thing instead of just pure energy moving through a painting. This turned into kind of a more ethereal piece. This is one of my newer ones. There is kind of sky, cloud feeling. The rays of light working through the painting is something that I've kind of played with. Giving some washes, even though I am working in abstract acrylic. I'm giving some washes that kind of throw me back to the look that I used to get with a lot of my watercolor work. Just kind of softening the color palette, softening the gradations and blends that I have in the pieces. So, and in this piece in particular, some of the spheres started showing up. I've always had kind of drips and splats in my pieces along with the line work, but some of the circles and spheres started showing up a little bit more prominently, which is kind of just universal, kind of interesting form. The piece to the far left, titled Cloud Dancer, is also a piece that I feel is, this is Equinox. This is definitely a piece that is of interest and a new one. Oh, we're gonna go to Cloud Dancer. This is Cloud Dancer. This is the first time that I started realizing that not only might these trails be energy, but they are light. They're light, possibly breaking through the cloud. So it's color and light, and you can kind of see the darks and lights. And Cloud Dancer is kind of just the rays of light moving through the painting up and off the page. Equinox, that is the one that's in the center, is one that I believe has a little bit more graphicness to it. It's the center one. This is one that just came to me during quarantine, and I think it's interesting that it is one of my trails. It's one of my softer trails, but I also feel like it's a piece that kind of separates the viewer from what's going on outside. And it's nothing that was intentional while I was painting it, but when the concept of isolating the elements came to me on this one, after it was complete, I kind of reflected on that and saw that it was something that was kind of, this is the beautiful thing happening here, and this is the kind of your window of opportunity to see it. So I think it's kind of interesting that it came about to me as kind of an evolution of my Chroma Trails. There's a lot of blending and work that happens in there. The line work is something that I do with multiple layers, some masking, and some palette knives that are really big. I use all levels of palette knives, and to get the color in, I will take sometimes a layer up and to the side, and up to the side, and it's something that I kind of blend the strong edge with the softness is kind of what I'm playing with now. Is kind of a dance between the soft and the structure. And this is kind of an exciting new piece that I'm liking. So, and I think we have one more that Alan has selected for the show, and it is one called Confetti Magic. And I would say that Confetti Magic, I think it's across the gallery. Confetti Magic is this one. To me, as I said before, the colors are the only thing that I determine before I start a painting. It's what color palette do I want to work with, and then I let it happen from there. This one, as I was doing it, it reminded me of Tinker Toys. It reminded me of confetti. It reminded me of Carnival. I love this cheerful color palette. It's something that I've got the red in the base down there on the lower right that's kind of filling and giving weight. And then these playful lines are running through it, coming in and out of the painting. I think one of the most wonderful comments that I got one time in person at one of the shows was somebody said, I love these trails. They bring you in, they draw you into the painting, and I don't know where I'm going, but it's fun going there. And they have depth and dimension, and they kind of curve and curl and twist and turn. So it's been a very fun series. It is a very fun series. It's something that I want to continue to expand upon. You'll see a little bit of dot texture up there above some of the trails. I like to do a lot of mark making. I like this, what we're focusing in on right now is some of the script work that I will throw in. It's a signature, but it is not a signature at all. It doesn't say anything, but it is my mark making. You'll see in most of the paintings that Alan has at Strecker Nelson West right now, you'll see some grid work, some very definite lines, and it's usually in the most background layer. It's some drips and removal of drips. I let water run down the page, and then I wipe it off, and that's kind of what creates the drips and lines. And it's kind of a subtle thing down in the lower left corner of this painting, but all the paintings that are there right now have this in it. And I think that is a little bit of that's a mark that I have in a lot of my paintings. There's probably going to be a little bit of grid work background, very softly, subtly added. So I don't know if there are any questions or... We appreciate you all coming tonight, though, and thank you so much.
Okay, I'm gonna come back on. I know we get a little echo when I come back on. Thank you so much, Lynette. And if you have any questions that you didn't get to see, you're welcome to email them to us. Yeah. Now I'm getting the terrible echo. All right. Technology is not being our friend today. Thank you, everyone, for sticking with us, and we're learning new stuff every day. Wow! And thank you to all of our artists, and we are so blessed to have such great artists here at SNW Gallery. You can view all of our artists online on our website, snwgallery.com. We are here for you through this difficult time. You can ask us questions. We love taking extra pictures. And we are happy to offer free delivery in the Manhattan area. And we are going to be doing some shipping specials. So we think the holidays are a great time to give the gift of art, show the people that you love, even though you can't be with them right now, you can send a little something from your heart. And thank you all. We will hopefully be working through some of our bugs and be back with you in December with Teresa Grove, Kristen Gehring, and Dolores Patterson. And until that time, I hope everyone stays safe and stays well and has a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thank you for joining us.